everybody. So let me please introduce the wonderful Nathan Oxenfeld to you. Nathan works as a certified Bates method teacher and also as a yoga teacher. He uses a combination of the Bates method, yoga, meditation, breath work, emotional work, diet, nutrition, and other vision training techniques to explore a more holistic approach to life. Nathan wore glasses and contact lenses for over a decade before learning that there were more holistic ways to improve his vision naturally. He offers various ways to learn the Bates method: online group courses, individual online programs, and one-on-one coaching sessions. So Nathan lives in North Carolina, USA. He's the founder of the Naked Eye podcast. He's also the founder of the Integral Eyesight Improvement, which is a holistic thinking course that uses the Bates method to and today our title is Light and Colour for Natural Vision Improvement. So welcome, Nathan. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Very much for that lovely intro, and really honored to be invited to speak today and share some of these really cool topics. So why don't we just go ahead and dive right in. Really appreciate everyone tuning in today, no matter where you are in the world. Appreciate you typing into the chat. We've got some people from the US and Canada, Australia, Belgium, Malaysia. Wow, that's awesome. So let's see, I'm going to do a screen share here and go into our class. All right. So once again, today's talk is going to be about how do we utilize light and color for the purposes of natural vision improvement. My name is Nathan Oxenfeld, and before we dive into this really cool topic, I do just want to clarify that I am not actually an eye doctor. I am a certified Bates method teacher and yoga teacher. And so what I'm going to be sharing today is a handful of things that I personally used to make my eyes feel better and actually start to see better, as opposed to just depending on the glasses and the contacts that I wore growing up. So first of all, maybe this whole topic of natural vision improvement is somewhat new or interesting to you. So I do just want to really kind of generally explain what this is as a whole, because really not enough people know that it exists and what it is. And really probably the most specific type of natural vision improvement is called the Bates method. And it was developed by an ophthalmologist named Dr. William Bates. And he lived actually 100 years ago. And so this stuff has actually been around for a century now, but still very few people know that it is an option to explore. So I'm really excited that you're here today to learn more about it. But that's not all natural vision improvement is. Like I said, that's probably the most specific, but I am also a yoga teacher, and I realized that there is actually some connection between yoga and eyesight and vision. And the type of yoga that I am trained in is called integral yoga, which was developed by Swami Satchidananda. So, and yoga isn't only a century old, it is even thought to be thousands of years old. So this natural vision improvement thing actually has been around even longer than glasses and contacts have. So it's not just these two. These are the kind of the two main things. And today we're going to really focus in on the Bates method. But we also do want to understand this is a holistic approach to eye care. So we do want to include the concepts of diet and nutrition, as well as what kind of lifestyle changes we might want to consider making to take better care of our eyes. This new, really growing field of neuroplasticity, this whole concept that the brain can change and grow at any age or stage in life. Plus this more ancient wisdom that has been handed down generation after generation in the traditions of yoga, Tai Chi, these other modalities that we can also incorporate, as well as more modern discoveries, because Dr. Bates really contributed a ton of research to this holistic approach to eye care, but he passed away in 1931, and there's been a lot of advancements in the fields of vision therapy and vision rehabilitation since that time as well. So we want to take those into account, and that's just a few. So it's really this holistic way that we can be taking care of our eyes. And maybe that's a novel concept. You know, we think about taking care of our teeth, brushing our teeth, flossing our teeth to have our oral hygiene. And we can kind of look at natural vision improvement as visual hygiene. And we want to learn how to make our eyes healthy. And one of the things we can use for that is light. We actually use light to enhance the health of the eyes. So I can't wait to dive in and really explain what that means. But real quick, this Bates method thing does warrant a little bit of explanation here, because we might all be familiar with the conventional approach to eye care, which involves getting your glasses and contacts, prescriptions, and maybe getting surgeries and drops and drugs and things like that. But holistic eye care has a little bit of a different spin on it. It has a different approach in terms of how do we address the underlying root causes of vision problems, as opposed to just treating the symptoms with the things I just listed. So this doctor named Dr. William Bates lived from 1860 to 1931, was really the pioneer of exploring this approach into, let's not just do the normal conventional thing, because that's how he started his career and was not very pleased with how it was leaving his patients' vision. They kept needing stronger and stronger glasses. It was just really treating the symptoms and ignoring the causes. So he actually released his groundbreaking book in 1920 called Perfect Sight Without Glasses. The original title was The Cure of Imperfect Sight by Treatment Without Glasses. So it's a little bit of a mouthful. So it got shortened down to Perfect Sight Without Glasses. But even beyond that, he continued to release a monthly publication for 11 years from 1919 to 1930 called Better Eyesight. And what was a lot of fun was in 2019, to celebrate the 100-year anniversary of this project, we actually started the Better Eyesight podcast, where we're going through and reading and making an audio version of this whole archive. So it's an 11-year podcast. We're in year number 3 right now. We just read through the March 1921 edition. For this month, the topic is blindness. So it's pretty amazing how each month we get to celebrate the 100-year anniversary of this knowledge coming out to the world, and providing some like modern updated commentary on it. Now, in a nutshell, the Bates method is all about relaxation, because that's the question on the topic here. What is the Bates method? The Bates method is a series of relaxation techniques and ways to work with the vision on all levels, not just the eyesight, but also the insight, your mental vision, your memory, your imagination, visualization, and lots of these physical vision skills as well, including visual acuity, which is your ability to focus and see clearly. But the key here is that it is not about eye exercises. A lot of people think, oh, the Bates method is eye exercises, or even natural vision improvement is eye exercises. And ever from the very, very beginning of me teaching this stuff, I really wanted to dispel that as an incorrect association. So the very second episode of my podcast that I started in 2015 called the Naked Eye Podcast is titled The Bates Method versus Eye Exercises. And that whole episode is devoted to really making sure people understand not to confuse the Bates Method with eye exercises. Why am I clarifying this? Because if you have poor vision, you might think my eyes are weak and I need to strengthen them. I need to exercise them. And there is something to that. But when you read Dr. Bates's material, and hopefully by the end of today's class, you're going to have this better understanding that actually my vision is this way, not because my eyes are weak and they need to be strengthened, but rather my eyes are strained and they need to learn how to relax. And luckily, light can help our eyes relax. So as we move forward into this class today, just keep reminding yourself, this is not about eye exercises. We're not strengthening the eye muscles. We're actually kind of doing the opposite. We're learning how to release and loosen and soften our tight eye muscles that are already strained. So one of the things that the Bates method targets or is designed to either prevent or also reverse are called refractive errors. And I remember the first time I read Dr. Bates's book, I wasn't really clear on this term. And so what is a refractive error? Well, refraction is the process of focusing light. And so as light passes through a medium, like a pane of glass or the surface of water, it actually bends the light. It changes how the light passes through that medium. And this even happens in the atmosphere as sunlight is coming through the clouds and through the water vapors in the air. It can refract it. That's actually why the sky looks blue, because the light is being refracted, and that's how our eyes perceive it. And so our eyes are meant to refract the environmental light in order to focus it onto the retina in the back of the eye. And when this is happening correctly, this is called emmetropia. And that's when we just have normal, clear vision. But we have sometimes things that go wrong, and we experience what's called refractive errors. And so some of the big common ones we hear about are myopia, which is nearsightedness or short-sightedness, hyperopia, which is farsightedness, presbyopia, which is more of kind of the age-related farsightedness. And sometimes people get confused with these terms because it's sort of opposite. When you're nearsighted, that means you can't see far. You've got clear vision near, blurry far, and farsightedness is kind of the opposite, not quite, but generally farsighted people have better vision far and blurry vision near. So in other words, if you use reading glasses plus lenses, you might be more farsighted. But if you use distance glasses or minus lenses, then you might be more nearsighted. Another common one is called astigmatism, and this has less to do with the eyeball being too long in myopia or being too flat in hyperopia. This has more to do with the eye being more kind of lopsided. So the cornea, which is the surface of the eye, is no longer perfectly rounded. It's actually got a sort of a cylinder shape to it at a particular angle. All of these are affecting how the light is refracting into the eye, and it no longer lands on the retina where it's supposed to. So if you go to Google Images and you type in refractive errors, you'll probably see some sort of diagram that shows an eyeball that is too flat or too long. If your eyeball is too long, that's known as nearsighted or myopic. If it's too flat, that's considered farsighted or hyperopic or presbyopic. So simply what's happening is the light is not landing on the right spot inside the eye and the retina. If you're nearsighted, it's focusing in front of your retina. If you're farsighted, it's focusing behind your retina. And that's the refractive error. The light is not focusing on the right spot, right? So there's one thing, though, that I want to point out about this diagram, and pretty much every anatomical diagram you find online that shows what a refractive error is it's missing something quite important. You know, I was told that since I was myopic and I was nearsighted, my eye doctor said, oh, your eyeball's too long. That's why it's blurry far away. But I never thought to ask, like, why is my eyeball too long? Right? And one day I decided to ask that, and they said, oh, it's genetic. Okay, well, that's one explanation. There is a hereditary component here. But what I want to share with you today is a little bit more of a functional explanation, and pointing out the fact that this diagram is missing a very important piece of the puzzle here, which is your 6 extraocular muscles, which are these 6 very powerful eye muscles that surround each one of your eyeballs. And so the suggestion here is that these powerful muscles surrounding this fluid-filled soft tissue organ have the ability to influence the shape of that organ. If you have some muscle strain or muscular tension existing in those extraocular muscles, it could be part of the reason why your eyeball's too flat or too long or lopsided with astigmatism. And that's exactly what Dr. Bates proposed, was that in a normal emmetropic eye, one that doesn't have this eye strain that we were just talking about, there's actually this flexibility of the eye. It's not that your eyeball is just stuck in one position. It actually gets longer and flatter depending on where you're focusing. So when you look up close, let's say you're looking at a flower or a book or something up close, what's meant to happen is your eyeball elongates. It gets longer because the oblique muscles around the middle of each eye contract. And when they contract, it actually elongates the eye from front to back. As opposed to if you are going to look out the window, looking off into the distance, the opposite happens. Those oblique muscles release and the four recti muscles contract back, and that flattens the eye for distance focus. So there's meant to be this flexibility, but that's assuming that there isn't this built up strain and tension in your visual system. If that's the case, then it might look more like the eye is actually getting stuck in one position or another. So it kind of just depends on which eye muscles are being strained or tensed, right? So when the oblique muscles are the ones that have this chronic strain and tension, they keep the eye too long and you become nearsighted. If it's in the recti muscles, they keep the eye too flat and it's farsighted, it's blurry up close. So all we're doing here is we're adding in the element of the extraocular muscles into the functionality of your eyes and realizing that there may be an issue here. There may be some strain in your eye muscles that you can actually unlock and release. And when that happens, your eyeball may become more flexible. It may actually begin to elongate and flatten as it's meant to, as opposed to getting stuck in one of those positions or another. Because right now, this is what happens if you go in to a regular eye doctor with one of these, refractive errors. They're going to want to put a curved piece of glass in front of your eye. And this is designed to correct a refractive error. So if you are farsighted and your eyeball is too flat, they're going to put a convex lens in front of you or a plus lens, and that brings the light forward because normally it's focusing behind your retina. The lens brings it forward so it lands on the retina. Whereas if you're nearsighted, they're going to want to put a concave lens in front of your eye because normally the light isn't actually getting far enough back. So the concave lens shoots the light a little bit farther back into the eye so that once again, it does land where it's supposed to. And we might be thinking, oh, well, this takes care of the problem. I have this blur, I have this refractive error. My eye isn't focusing the light correctly. These artificial lenses are helping me do that. But my suggestion for you today is to think about what effect this is having on your extraocular muscles, right? Because this is helping, once again, the muscles are left out of that diagram. So if we remember, oh yeah, we've got these powerful eye muscles. What are these glasses and contacts doing to the eye muscles? Well, they're actually encouraging the eye muscles to stay in that tight, tense, strained position in order to be able to compensate for that artificial lens, changing how the light is refracting. In other words, the vision problem is not corrected, it's just covered up. And it continues to get worse and worse over time. And if it's left unchecked, we need stronger prescriptions over time. And it might even lead to other visual complications like cataracts or glaucoma or macular degeneration, which usually don't come out of nowhere. They come after years and years and years of a basic refractive error. So what Dr. Bates suggested is instead of just covering up the symptoms by putting glasses in front of your eyes, to get the light to land on the right spot on the retina, let's explore some ways that we can potentially retrain our own built-in visual system, our eye muscles, to be able to refract the light in a more efficient way naturally. We don't have to depend on the artificial lenses to do that for us. So, really, what is it about these glasses and contacts that really isn't maybe exactly what we thought they were doing originally? Well, I mean, it's in the name. They're called artificial lenses. So they're actually giving you this kind of artificial clarity, right? So it is giving you a clear picture, right? It's clearing the world up. It's bringing something that used to be blurry into clarity, and that's great. I'm not knocking that. And there's actually a purpose for these lenses that we really want to utilize. But the thing is that like we said about the definition of refraction, anytime light passes through a medium, even a piece of glass, it actually filters the light. It doesn't only bend the light or refract the light differently, but it actually filters it. And since the topic today is about light and color with our eyes and our vision, I want you to think about like what is being filtered out. What are your eyes being deprived of when you wear the glasses or the contacts? They're cutting down the spectrum of light that's coming in to your body. And there's these, health implications. We want to understand how this light and color can affect us on these other levels. So even if you have non-prescription glasses, it actually decreases the color. And if you have prescription glasses, you also probably are familiar with the fact that they distort the size and the distance of objects. So usually nearsighted people wear glasses that make things look farther away and smaller in size, whereas farsighted people wear reading glasses that they're magnifiers, so they make things seem bigger and closer than they really are. And at first, this might seem kind of innocent, but it's actually kind of messing with your depth perception and your color perception. And yes, it is giving you more details and better visual acuity, but some of the other visual skills are actually getting diminished. The lenses tend to kind of flatten the world out a little bit and kind of mess with that size and space orientation. And actually, I'm in this Vision Teachers WhatsApp group, and this eye doctor from Brazil was actually just sharing this study that was published about the effect of glasses on people's proprioception or spatial awareness. Even when their eyes were closed, they were using this auditory thing. Their eyes were closed and somebody was hitting a bell, and they had to kind of reach out and use their hearing to gauge where the bell was. And they did it with glasses on. Their eyes were closed, so they weren't actually even seeing through the glasses. They still had this effect on how the light was coming through even the closed eyelids. So I just want you to be thinking about, what are these glasses actually doing? And if we want to actually start thinking about incorporating the Bates method or natural vision improvement, we start to wonder about, well, what is natural clarity? I'm familiar with what artificial clarity is because, I've worn these glasses or contacts for X amount of years. But maybe it's been a while since you've actually experienced natural clarity. And this is what the Bates method provides us. A lot of people who start doing the Bates method start experiencing what are called clear flashes, or one of my students started calling them clear waves because they started lasting longer, and you can kind of ride it out and surf that wave of clarity. And what is that? That's when you don't have glasses or contacts on, but all of a sudden your vision becomes clear. And it might only be for a fraction of a second at first, and then it gets blurry again. But with practice, you learn how to maintain that natural clarity. And one thing that I really want to convey today is that we're not just talking about eyesight here. When you start to have those clear flashes, yes, you do see more clearly on a physical level. But I also want to suggest this idea that when you achieve this feeling of actually focusing light onto your retina without the help of artificial lenses, it has these other profound systemic effects on your body, your mind, so physically, mentally, emotionally. I'm just thinking about some of my first clear flashes that the Bates method gave me, and it was like the simplest, most mundane task or activity. I was just walking my dog, but all of a sudden I could read this road sign that was like over 50 feet away from me without my glasses on. And I just like almost broke out into tears. It was just so exciting and enjoyable and ecstatic. And I never thought that reading a simple road sign would ever make me feel that way. But when we have these natural, clear moments, it is this really powerful experience. And so what am I talking about when I mention these systemic effects, right? So when we start to experience relaxation is dependent on having these clear flashes. Whenever you have clearer vision, it's because you're more relaxed. So you actually get to increase your relaxation levels, which I think we all need these days. We achieve better focus. And this isn't just the physical focus, it's also the mental focus, right? So our ability to have longer attention spans and be able to focus on our work more or school more. We become more flexible. Like I said, not only the eyeball and the eye organs and the eye muscles gain more flexibility, but sometimes we actually become more flexible in life in general. People experience better balance when they start doing this kind of stuff because your eyes are very tied in with your ears and your vestibular system. And the orientation of your eyes really informs your whole balance. So a lot of people find they become more balanced. And once again, this can also just apply in your life in general. Proprioception, I mentioned that word a little bit ago about your spatial awareness and orientation. This also tends to increase when you work on this vision work. Your memory improves. I never really used to think there was a connection between your memory or your imagination and your eyesight, but that is a huge part of the Bates method. And that's one of my favorite parts of it as well, this inclusion of the mental vision stuff. Today's class, we're talking about color as well. So people's color perception generally enhances, or people become more sensitive to different hues of colors. Depth perception, that 3D binocular stereoscopic vision, is also one of these visual skills that comes along with better vision, which is very similar to fusion. This is the teamwork of your left eye and your right eye. So maybe some of you have a dominant eye or an eye that has a stronger prescription than the other. So this topic really helps find more balance between the left and the right. What was it, January or February, the Better Eyesight podcast was all about pain and how to actually relieve pain naturally through the eyes, using one of the things I'm going to share with you today, central fixation. People's intuition tends to get a little bit clearer. You kind of have this inner vision skill that starts to turn on, as well as your other physical senses, right? So sometimes people notice their hearing or their other special senses get enhanced when you work on enhancing the vision and vice versa. But I think, like that story I shared about reading the road sign, what really made me feel so happy and ecstatic was this feeling of independence and freedom, where I actually wasn't depending on artificial lenses to function and see and live my life. It was this feeling of, wow, I can do this myself. And this is just a few, like this is scratching the surface. I thought that better eyesight was really the only thing this was going to teach me, but I had no idea all this other stuff was going to come along the way. So that's another reason why I think the eyes are such a unique entry point for healing. So this is a perfect time for us to go ahead and dive into how to actually heal the eyes using light therapy and dark therapy. And I want to also talk about the role of colors in this thing called central fixation together. First of all, it's been about 30 minutes, and I want to remind you to please, please, please do not stare at your screen. So if you have been looking at the screen this whole time, take this opportunity to look away from your screen. Maybe you can find a window to look out of, maybe connect visually with something else in the room, something farther, maybe something closer than the screen. I want to be encouraging some good vision habits, even while we're learning about this vision stuff. Sometimes we can be actually doing a bad vision habit by accident. So please make sure you're looking away from the screen when you need to. Close your eyes whenever you need a little break. Make sure you're blinking, and this stuff starts to become more and more habitual. So within the Bates method, there is a very specific type of light therapy called sunning. And this is probably my favorite part of the Bates method. It's how do we actually use full spectrum sunlight, natural light, to make our eyes happier and healthier. And at first, this might sound a little counterintuitive because you may have heard that the sun is not good for your eyes. You know, you may have been told to always wear sunglasses, or, you know, maybe you have transition lenses that automatically get darker when you go outside. We start to think that the sun is the enemy of the eyes, but I'm here to really provide a counter argument that the sun is your best friend for your eyes if you use it correctly. So sunning is super simple. You pretty much go outside when the sun is shining and you close your eyes and you swing. So that means you can either pivot just your head side to side like you're shaking your head no. Maybe you want to nod your head yes. Maybe you want to do some head rolls or some infinity signs. Some people like to just swing their whole body and really get just, you know, more movement in the whole head to toe area. But really, you just want to make sure your eyes are closed. You're not squinting your eyes. You want to keep your eyes, your facial muscles relaxed and soft. Sometimes I even lift my eyebrows up, keeping the eyes closed to make sure I'm not accidentally scrunching my brow in response to the very bright light. But we only do this for 5 or 10 or 15 seconds before we follow it with palming. And when we alternate between sunning, palming, sunning, palming, sunning, palming, I call that a sun sandwich for 2 reasons. You're sandwiching it, so you're alternating light, dark, but we want to start to thinking of sunlight like food for our eyes. So you're actually feeding your eyes a little sun sandwich when you do this. And palming, also very simple. You're pretty much just blocking all of the light from entering your eyes. So your hands are cupped, so they're not flat. You're not pressing your palms into your eyes. There is space. So my eyes are covered up, but I can look around in a circle. I can blink if I need to. But generally, I just kind of keep my eyes closed when I palm and just seal them off as best I can from the light. Make sure it's not your fingers over your eyes because that's going to let light through. It's the palms to see if you can really create a really dark chamber there for 5 or 10 or 15 seconds, and then you sun again. So even if you're doing it, if you want to try it right now, either if you have some nice light coming in through a window, or I've got some light bulbs here, I can just face towards the source of light, whether it's natural or artificial. We'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. But then I just palm my eyes and watch all that light fade away. It gets darker, darker, darker. When it doesn't really seem to be getting much darker, I keep my eyes closed, but I remove my palms and go right back into sunning, and I watch the light return. So it's getting brighter, 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 and I'm just enjoying the light show, keeping everything relaxed. I'm not squinting or straining in any way. And then I palm again and watch the light fade through the colors back into the blackness. You might even notice that each time you alternate between really bright and really dark, for that 10 or 15 seconds, the adjustment from the dark to the light actually speeds up. So it gets darker black faster. You don't have to wait as long. And the little light show goes faster, so it gets really bright even quicker. So this is the sun sandwich. We do this for a total of anywhere between 1 and 5 minutes of going back and forth, 5 to 15 seconds of sunning, 5 to 15 seconds of palming. And you get to choose how long you do this. And if you know that you already have some light sensitivity, if sunlight bothers you, you might want to start with this on a cloudy day, or you might want to do it underneath the shade of a tree, or inside facing a window, or using a lamp inside, so that you can gradually work your way up to that brighter version of it. So yeah, when we combine the sunning and palming, we get those sun sandwiches. And people ask sometimes, like, when's the best time to do this in the day? And really, if you can do this first thing in the morning, that is going to be ideal. The next best time to do it is around sunset. So when the sun is low in the sky in the beginning of the day or the end of the day, that is going to be the ideal time. Technically, you could do this anytime though. If you are doing it when the sun is higher in the sky, you'd probably want to shorten the overall time, maybe just 1 or 2 minutes total. But if you are doing it and the sun is low in the sky, it's a lower UV index, it's really good conditions, you could go for longer, like 5 minutes or so. But you always want to let your comfort be your guide. So if this is ever feeling uncomfortable or too bright, or you do feel like you are straining and you can't stay relaxed with it, that's an indication that, you need to modify it to make sure you're comfortable. Because remember, this is a relaxation-based approach. If you're trying some of this stuff and it's not relaxing you, then you're kind of wasting your time, and it might even be making the problem worse. So we really want to make sure we're doing these things correctly. And this is the only thing in the Bates method that if you do it incorrectly, or if you go overboard with it, it could cause some harm. It could damage your eyes. Just like you can get sunburnt on your skin if you're out in the sun too long, you can get sunburnt on your eyes too. But just because something in excess could potentially cause some harm, I mean, technically, if you drank too much water, you would die. You don't avoid water altogether. So you don't want to run and hide from the sun just because too much of it could be harmful for your eyes. In fact, not getting enough sunlight can be just as bad as getting too much. And so what I'm asking you to do is to find the sweet spot in between where you are dosing your visual system with high quality natural light on a regular basis with respect and with moderation, so that you're not running the risk of doing any kind of damage to yourself. And simply by doing the sun sandwiches for 1 or 2 or 3 minutes, that's it. That's the sweet spot. That is getting just enough light exposure without going overboard. And you could do that once, twice, or even 3 times a day and not really be worried, as long as you're doing these little baby doses of the light instead of doing a big long exposure all at once. So this is my version of the light and the dark therapy according to the Bates method of how we actually use light. Because remember, if you have a refractive error, that means your eye is not refracting the light onto the retina. And by letting the light shine through your closed eyelids, sometimes you're actually training these involuntary muscles in your eyes to get better at focusing the light and refracting the light onto your retina. So, and you decrease your light sensitivity. Over time, you can handle bright lights. You don't need sunglasses as much. You can get away with hats, or, maybe just your eyes are handling the light better in general. So once again, we want to do 5 to 15 seconds of sunning, 5 to 15 seconds of palming, and pretty much repeat that anywhere between 1 and 5 minutes. And this is a really, really good way to start, like brushing your teeth and flossing your teeth. This is what you do for your visual hygiene. This is actually taking better care of your eyes when you do it correctly. So I mentioned that it is possible to do this indoors as well. Like, nothing beats the natural light, right? Outdoor sunlight is the natural light. That's really what our eyes are really here to absorb. Your eyeballs are organs of light. They're meant to receive a very specific type of light, which is full spectrum natural sunlight. And so that is going to be the top of the totem pole there. But we've also got options to use artificial lights. Now, this includes both the indoor lighting, like my light bulbs here, but also the screen is a light source as well. So I want to kind of break it down into these 2 categories of therapeutic light versus non-therapeutic light. Starting with the therapeutic light, we have examples like in syntonic optometry, which is color therapy and light therapy. There's a device called the syntonizer, where you actually look into a light source, which has a colored filter in front of it to give you a very specific bandwidth of light frequencies that are targeting specific visual conditions or other health issues. So for example, looking at a blue light will actually stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system, whereas looking at a red light tends to stimulate the sympathetic nervous system. And looking at a green light tends to balance or to find a homeostasis between the parasympathetic and sympathetic. And so there's, ways we can use specific colors and lights to create specific effects. And these red and infrared lights have definitely been getting more noticed and used by more people, using these, once again, very specific red and infrared frequencies of light to shine onto the body or even onto the eyes for specific purposes. The red light tends to be used for wound healing. So a lot of people who have macular degeneration or diabetic retinopathy or retinal detachment or these different kinds of issues with the back of the eye, they'll shine that red light on there to heal that part of the body. So these are specific artificial lights that have therapeutic uses to them, as opposed to general, lighting, for example, fluorescent lighting or LED lighting or compact fluorescent bulbs, which, are taking over and replacing and phasing out the gentler artificial lights like the incandescents and the halogens and things like that. Plus what we're all, looking at right now with our screens, there may be some blue light coming out and affecting our sleep cycles and things like that. So that's what I mean by non-therapeutic. There is, like I said, blue light. If you're using it for a therapeutic reason, it can actually stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system to have this, physiological effect. But if we're not using it therapeutically, if we're just on the computer all day to work or for school, and we don't have that intention behind the light, it can actually trip us over into this territory where it's kind of messing with our visual system. So if you don't have access to the sun and you still want to get this light therapy in, I would recommend using either going outside and doing it in the clouds if it's not raining. But if you are doing it inside, you could use either an incandescent light bulb, halogen light bulb, full spectrum light bulb, or maybe even one of those red infrared ones. I would not use the LEDs or the compact fluorescents because they tend to emit more of that artificial blue light, and some of them have this kind of flicker effect that sometimes isn't very relaxing for people. So like I said, though, the sun, is the king of the light. It's like we not only have this visible light spectrum that humans can perceive from just under 400 to over 700 nanometers, Roy G. Biv, we know the visible light spectrum for the humans, but when we do the sunning practice, we actually also get the UV, the infrared, and all the non-visible spectrum. A lot of it gets filtered out in the atmosphere, but I just want you to think about this sort of entourage effect. When you use any kind of artificial light, you're only getting a sliver of the spectrum, a sliver of the visible spectrum. Some of them do go into the infrared or the UV and things like that, but it's so much simpler to just go outside and use the light that we're already given for free from the sun. Now, we've talked about light, and I just want to wrap it up a little bit with color. And I do want to stick around and see if anybody has any questions about any of this stuff. But what about color? Light and color definitely get lumped together because, color is just different types of light. But what's really amazing about the human eye is it has this retina in the back, which is what receives the light. And it's really made up of these two primary photoreceptor cells, which are light receiving cells. So we've got rods and we've got cones. Now, in the Bates method, you're going to find something called central fixation, which really is the difference between your central vision and your peripheral vision. And this has everything to do with your cones versus your rods, because your central vision is comprised of cones. And your cones, you have red cones, blue cones, and green cones. And so they are what provide you with your color perception, is your central vision. If you think about a dartboard, it's kind of like the bullseye on the dartboard. And so we can test this out. If we have different colors on the screen or different colors in your room that you're in, if you look at a color with your central vision, and ideally you can do this without any glasses or contacts, even if that means it makes your vision blurrier. The cool thing about colors is you don't have to see the colors in sharp focus in order to see what color it is. So let's say if you take your glasses off and the screen gets blurry, or you look at a picture on the wall in the distance without your glasses and it's blurry, just because you don't have the details doesn't mean you can't perceive the colors. So I want you to think about color as a way to help you be without your glasses and connect with things visually instead of obsessing about the details or the lack of details. You're more interested in, oh, what color is that blurry thing over there? But what I want to ask you to test is, can you notice that your central vision is more colorful than your peripheral vision is? So there's different colors on the screen. When you look directly at the color with your central vision, notice how vivid it is. And then if you look at a different part of the screen or elsewhere, maybe some of those colors fade or they become a little duller or harder to tell what color or hue they are. As opposed to when you bring your central vision back to it so you look directly at it, it actually pops. It becomes more colorful and vivid. So if you continue to shift around, looking from one color to another in the space around you or on the screen, I want you to see if you can also notice this peripheral motion. As you're busy moving from this point to that point to this point to that point, we're opening up to this thing called the swing. And this is simply you noticing oppositional movement or apparent motion in your peripheral field. So your cones are meant to perceive colors, but your rods, which give you your peripheral vision, are not. Their job is to sense motion. Okay, so we're kind of doing two things at once here. You're letting your cones land on a purple color, a red color, a pink color, a green color. And as your central vision is hopping around and your cones are eating those colors, your rods in your periphery, maybe you can notice that as you explore the room, the stationary objects around you actually seem to have a little bit of motion to them. Even though you know that they're not actually moving, since you're moving, it kind of looks like they are. They're moving around in your periphery. And this can actually be quite relaxing. You're not trying to see the details out in the edges. You're not trying to focus on them. You're just noticing that there seems to be this sense of motion out in the periphery of your vision. So this is a little bit of a crash course in this central fixation concept. We can definitely go much deeper into this, but I love how we can actually use colors to help us connect with where our central vision is and help us not try and see too clearly in the periphery. Instead, we're actually devoting our peripheral vision for sensing motion instead of colors and details. And that's a big kind of secret of the Bates method. Dr. Bates called it the fundamental principle. And a lot of people miss out on this and they don't understand that this is actually a part of seeing clearly without glasses, is letting your peripheral vision be less colorful, less detailed, which can allow your central vision to become more colorful and eventually more detailed as well. But it is a practice. And to make it fun, to make it kind of like a game, I'm going to challenge you to look for one color a day. And we just wrapped up this fun color week that went all last week. And so what we did last Saturday, we started on red. We went to orange, yellow, green, turquoise, blue, violet, and yesterday was magenta. So I'm going to invite you to do this as well. And you can choose the colors, you can choose the days. If you want, you can keep it simple and just do Roy G. Biv. But I just want to share that I had so much fun paying extra special attention to just one color for an entire day and really noticing it and connecting with it visually and really celebrating that color. And what was so funny is that on Monday, I was looking for something yellow to take a picture of and to share on Instagram with this hashtag so other people could see it. And I realized, oh my gosh, my house is yellow. You know, I've been living in this house for over 2 years and I sort of had forgotten that it's yellow. So it's like these colors are around us all the time. And sometimes we actually take them for granted or we don't really notice them or take it time to appreciate them and connect with them. And it's your eyes that really see the colors. So I want to give you permission to let your eyes kind of absorb these colors one day at a time, because if we're trying to do them all at once, it can be a little confusing and overwhelming. And if you do want some inspiration, you can type in Color Week 2021 as a hashtag on social media, Instagram or Facebook, and you can see a big list of hundreds of pictures people have been sharing over the past week with all these different colors. So it's just been a lot of fun. And so this does bring us towards the end of the class. I did want to let you know, if this is interesting to you and you're really curious to learn even more about this, there's a lot of different ways you can do that. Like I mentioned before, I have this Better Eyesight podcast that comes out on the 1st of each month, where, I mean, that's the best place to go straight to the source of this material, because we're really reading Dr. Bates's articles and research from 100 years ago. The Naked Eye podcast is a little bit more of my interview style one, where I actually bring on other practitioners and we talk about, you know, different modalities of natural healing. I have a YouTube channel that has lots of videos called Bates Method 101. I was really on a mission to let people try this stuff out on their own first before they really kind of go deeper into it. So you'll find videos about the sunning, the palming, and the swinging, and the central fixation, and a lot more. Also, during the pandemic, I did this 6-part vision tune-up series, which I think went really well. It's like essentially a little mini online course that you should definitely check out if you're into that. I'm really excited about this documentary that we put out last year, Vision 2020, From Eyesight to Insight. I actually co-produced that with my colleague, Barry Ocketel, who is based in Australia. And we went around and interviewed lots of other vision teachers and sat down and really explored this vision improvement journey from eyesight to insight. So you can rent that or purchase that online. I do have a book as well, sort of like a handbook or a workbook that walks you through these practices and gives you a little bit more of a written reference to work with this stuff on. And then I do have some online courses. I have a sort of an individual course that you can go through on your own called the Holistic Vision Program, as well as a 6-month vision improvement group where I got a group of people through 6 months of this vision training. Halfway through the current one, the next one's probably going to start up later this year. But all this stuff can be found at my main website, integraleyesight.com. And that, yeah, like I said, I'm pretty keen on putting lots of stuff out there for free and just sharing this information, because I really just feel like we all deserve to know that this exists and that it's an option if you do want to explore it. But I don't mean to overwhelm you or overload you. And I just want to remind you to keep it really simple. And all I really want you to do in terms of taking action is just doing a little bit of light therapy and dark therapy every day. We're only talking about minutes here, right? So just carving out a few minutes of your day, just like you carve out a few minutes of your day to brush your teeth and floss your teeth, just really start taking care of your eyes in a better way. And hopefully today I've given you a couple ideas of how to start doing that. And I'm definitely happy to stick around. We're just coming up towards the end of the hour here, but yeah, I'm really, really appreciative of people tuning in today and taking some time to learn about this stuff and how it works. And yeah, if we have any questions, I'm happy to stick around and answer some. You can also email me at nathan@integraleyesight.com or check out some of those resources that I shared on the last slide.
Thank you, Nathan. That's been absolutely fantastic presentation with lots of practical tips. We have got questions, and if you like, wonderful. I can actually read them to you so that it's easy for you. Some of them you've already answered, but I'll go through it one by one. Is it possible to be both far and nearsighted together?
It is. It is. So generally, like what's kind of common, people will experience, they'll be maybe farsighted first. So they might lose their ability to read things up close. And then they start wearing reading glasses, and then they realize their distance vision isn't quite as good as it used to be, or they'll start nearsighted and then develop the farsightedness. So that's the thing about these refractive errors, is they can be multiple. You can have multiple refractive errors, not just one. But what I want to convey is that they're all traced back to the extraocular muscles. So even if you have both nearsightedness and farsightedness, there's still hope and things that you can do to retrain these eye muscles to get a little bit more flexible. So I had two refractive errors. I had myopia and astigmatism, and I worked on decreasing both of them using very similar protocols. So it will be a different kind of journey if you have both, but there's ways we can definitely still work with that.
Excellent. And another question here is, if someone is really tired, it's quite common that their eyesight goes blurry or worse. Can you briefly explain what's going on there?
Yeah, so according to Dr. Bates, any kind of blur is connected with some strain, whether we're talking about the physical strain or probably more the mental strain, which could be thought of more as like stress. And that actually shows up in the form of bad vision habits. So I think a concept that really helped me, because I used to feel that too. My eyes would get really tired by the end of the day. It's like I just needed to just close them and call it a day. But Dr. Bates taught that that's not just from using the eyes. Normally, that's only happening because of incorrect use of the eyes. It's only because of the strain. So if we can learn good vision habits and we can learn how to keep our eyes relaxed when we're on the computer, when we're going about our visual tasks every day, we can use the eyes more indefinitely without as much fatigue. So you get to the end of the day and your eyes are just ready for more seeing. But that requires you identifying what are my bad vision habits, like staring or squinting or straining, or maybe it is more mental strain. Maybe your job or your school is really stressing you out about something. Those are the types of things that we can sort of address and bring a little bit more relaxation and ease into that. And then it totally transforms how our eyes feel by the end of the day.
Excellent. That's wonderful. There was a couple of questions about the length of the sunning periods. But I think you've answered that. You clarified that it's 5 to 15 seconds each section within the sandwich process. Yeah,
for a total of like just 1 to 5 minutes, right? So if you're doing 10 seconds back and forth, that's only a minute total, right? Sunning, palming, sunning, palming, sunning, palming. And then you do want to end with the sunning so that you're like adjusted to the light. Because if you end with palming, your pupils are dilated and it's going to be kind of a shock. So you want to readjust to the light. So you end with the sunning, whether that's 1 minute or 5 minutes, but you really don't get more benefit by going beyond that. You just want to get those little chunks of, it's like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, a little sandwich, one or two or three times a day.
Excellent. That's great. I also have a question here. How long does it actually take one of your people who is doing your trainings usually to start seeing without glasses again using the Bates method?
Yeah, for that, I really like to kind of categorize temporary improvements and permanent improvements. So the temporary ones, like I mentioned today, those clear flashes or clear waves where your vision is improved temporarily, but then the blur does come back. Those are the temporary ones, and people usually start to experience those fairly quickly. When they start going without their glasses more and they start doing their sunning and palming and doing their eye chart reading and stuff like that, they actually start within some people get it in the first couple days or weeks of doing the practice. But if you're asking about the more permanent clarity and the improvements actually coming and staying, that can sometimes be longer term. So sometimes that's more a matter of months or even years of doing this, lifestyle change. Because once again, it's not just eye exercises. We're not exercising for years. We're gradually changing our habits and our lifestyle, which takes time. And then what happens is they're dropping their prescription over time. So their vision improves. Their original glasses are too strong, so they drop down to the next weaker pair. They keep on working on it. Their vision improves again, and their prescription drops again. And eventually, some people get all the way down to complete independence. Not everybody does. Some people, make really big decreases in their prescription, which I think is smart. Because if, like I said, if we leave it unchecked and the prescription keeps climbing, that makes us more at risk for other eye issues, retinal detachments and stuff like that. So whether you're actually just trying to prevent it from getting worse, or maybe cutting your prescription in half, or maybe some people are like, yeah, let's go all the way with it and see how far we can go. That's kind of why, I called my book Give Up Your Glasses for Good, because that's kind of like one of the sort of goals that I hold for people is like, let's see if that is a possibility, if we can get to this place of functioning in life and seeing clearly without the help of artificial lenses. But even if you end up still needing them, that doesn't mean that you're not still getting these amazing benefits and also ending up with healthier and less strained eyes in general.
Excellent. That's wonderful. Inspiring. Encouraging. And there's another question here. What if in the protocol, if you only have the option of doing afternoon sun for sunning, what is the protocol if that's the situation?
Well, one of the reasons why I said the morning version is like the best is mainly because of the whole circadian rhythm thing. Because I think it's interesting how when you expose yourself to bright light first thing in the morning, it begins the countdown for your melatonin release that night for bed. So if you wake up and you just get right to work, or you don't get to sunlight until the afternoon, it's like your clock is delayed by several hours to go to sleep that night. But even if that is the case, you still can, do the sunning in the afternoon. My recommendation would be to just shorten the overall length, because it's a higher UV index and it's just brighter and warmer and more intense. So it's more powerful. You don't need quite as much to get that daily dose of your sunshine vitamin. And then maybe just do it again before sunset when it's lower in the sky and it's a lower UV index. It's a lot more gentle, and you can maybe go for a little bit longer. So it's not necessary to do, wake up for sunrise every morning, but some people do talk about the importance of getting that really, early morning light if it is a possibility. It's a little tricky here because I live on this mountainside where the sun actually doesn't, it lands down in the valley, starting at sunrise, but it doesn't get into my yard until like 10 or 11 a.m. So, but I'll still go outside and look towards the bright sky. I won't get the direct light until it hits my yard, but so yeah, we got to kind of be flexible with it. And that's why I use my red and infrared light first thing in the morning before I go out and do, the sunning. If the sun isn't available, then I'll just do my indoor sunning to kind of initiate that, morning light kind of effect.
Excellent. I have another question here. What about the light for illumination at home? Is it better white or yellow lights?
Yeah, that's a great question. The way that I would actually answer that is, as opposed to thinking about the color, I would think about the type of light. So is it incandescent? Is it halogen? Is it full spectrum? Is it fluorescent? Is it LED? I don't want this to be overwhelming, but it is kind of interesting when you start to research the different types of artificial lights. So I personally use incandescent light bulbs whenever possible, which is a little harder and harder to find because many countries and places are actually phasing them out. But I've got 2 halogen lamps right now shining on me. This is an incandescent light bulb, so it is more yellow-orange side of the spectrum, whereas generally the LEDs and the fluorescents are on the more cool side of the spectrum. And so it is a personal preference, but I also started using these red light bulbs. So it's just a red colored light bulb that I use for nighttime. So it doesn't affect my night vision and my, hormone melatonin production and stuff like that. So I think they do make the yellow ones and the orange ones and different colored ones too. But yeah, I personally, if you can find incandescent light bulbs in your area, that's what I'd recommend for your eyes. But there's definitely, that's sort of a whole category of like what kind of lights to use indoors.
Excellent. And further to that, there's a comment from Trish K. She's saying, I was talking with a naturopathic doctor today who uses just red and infrared lights at night around home after sunset, which she said helped balance the daytime tech device use and helped melatonin levels, and also some low wattage incandescent light if needed.
That's what I've been doing with this. It's like I have that up in my bedroom, so if I need lights on, when I'm getting ready for bed, it's like it's so calming and relaxing, and it actually makes it easier to fall asleep as opposed to having the white lights or the the blue lights from your devices and stuff.
Absolutely. So we have another question. So for people who are just starting out on the vision improvement journey, should they start with the podcast, your book, videos on your website, or ? So best intro for beginners, in other words. And she says, because I see people feel overwhelmed and giving up too soon.
Yeah, so the reason I've put out so many different types of materials is because I know different people have different learning styles. So if you know that you're like a more auditory learner, then yeah, go check out the Better Eyesight podcast and listen to Dr. Bates's articles and listen to us talk about it. That's really going to break down all of these concepts that might be harder to understand. In terms of if you're a more visual learner, you might want to head over to YouTube and watch my videos of me demonstrating the practices. You kind of follow along with them. Some people really learn better from reading things, so getting the book and absorbing it that way. So it probably depends on what, if you know what type of learning style you really thrive with. But yeah, I think out of all those, probably the YouTube channel would probably be a good starting point, just because, it just, in my opinion, like videos are a really powerful way to learn this stuff, because you could actually misinterpret it from the book or hear it explained in the podcast and you do it the wrong way. So if you watch me do it visually, that kind of eliminates some of that guesswork.
Absolutely. I think just you showing that sunning exercise proves that today in your talk. It's really good to be able to see you doing it. Yeah. So we've got so many questions coming. Oh, here's a comment saying 1,000 bulbs. That's the number 1000bulbs.com. But they don't ship to California, so that must be a good supplier that's been recommended. Valerie, saying thank you very much to you. Okay, another comment from Serena. If one eye sees well enough that the other, where you don't need to wear glasses to see, is it beneficial for the weaker eye, or should you use a contact to balance vision?
Yeah, that's, anytime there's a different prescription in the two eyes, whether it's, to the point where you actually can see well enough without any prescription, that does make it a little more complicated, because let's say you have a -1 in your left eye and a -3 in the right eye, you could, get a pair of training glasses that would allow you to kind of decrease those strengths a little bit on both sides. But if one already doesn't really need a prescription, technically you could get a pair of training glasses that has no prescription in that eye. So it's just a plain glass, number 0. And then you would put the strength that you need in the other one so that you feel that balance. I think that's the key word there, balance, is we want to make sure that the brain is able to interpret the light coming into the eyes in a fairly equal way, so that it's not like one eye is a lot clearer than the other one. That could actually lead to more imbalances. So yes, what you suggested, Serena, of having maybe one contact in or one side with the prescription in the glasses, one side without. But it really depends on the exact numbers. So we could get a little bit more specific with it, in an email, and we can kind of go into that together. Or like, if people have those specific questions about their numbers or their prescriptions. That tends to be a better one-on-one thing. But another thing to think about is using that eye patch. So instead of actually having a patch over that eye that sees better, so that you're allowing the one that isn't seeing as well a chance to start to activate and come back online and kind of get more in balance with the other one. But that might not be something that you're doing like during work, or, you want to kind of think about what's an appropriate time in my day to be working on my vision. And then what's a time where I just need to wear the glasses and just be efficient and get this thing done. So kind of depends on if you're just doing an everyday task or if you're like a little bit in that more experimental vision training mode.
Awesome, that's great. And just one last comment from Alison saying, I have not updated my reading glasses since 2019. I noticed when I was wearing my bifocals all the time, I felt my eye getting weaker. So that confirms what you were saying about the longer we wear the glasses, the more need for stronger glasses. And
Yeah, I'm a little conflicted because I'm originally from outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And so that's where Benjamin Franklin lived and made a lot of his discoveries. And he is attributed to inventing the bifocal glasses. And so I've got this pride about Benjamin Franklin, but I also realize that most people like Allison, when they start to wear bifocals or trifocals or progressives, that it becomes a kind of a slippery slope. And it sounds like kind of a cool idea to have these multiple, prescriptions or focal points in the lens. But once people start wearing them, the vision tends to kind of go downhill. So it sounds like Allison is saying that instead of the bifocals, maybe she's been wearing the single focus lenses. So if you do have bifocals, which means you have two prescriptions, one in the top, one in the bottom, you could actually try switching back to a single focus lens, which is just like a basic, plus lens that you would get at a drugstore. And you might need different pairs for different activities, but it's a little bit easier on the visual system to just have one prescription in front of the eyes instead of two or three. But it is a process. And I just want to leave people with this reminder that if you have your glasses off and you're squinting and you're straining and you're struggling and you're stressing out, that is not going to work. It's about taking the glasses off and softening, breathing, blinking, relaxing, and not trying to focus. That's the whole paradox here, is that we're learning how to not try to see. And that's the big mistake a lot of people make. They want to push, they want to force it, they want to exercise, and that just takes us farther from the clarity. We need to learn how to relax into the clarity and really receive the lights and the colors in a very strained way.
That's great, Nathan. Thank you so much. I think we'll wrap it up there because you've answered so many questions and given such great information.
There's that question about sunning with contacts. Ideally, you can do the palming and the sunning and really all the Bates practices without contacts or glasses, especially the sunning. Technically, you could do the sunning and you still get the relaxation in the facial muscles, but if you really want the full benefit, you actually do these without contacts or glasses, and that'll give you the best results.
That's excellent. I'm really looking forward to having a look at your website and checking out everything. I'll certainly be following it myself and putting some things into practice. So thank you so much. And for anyone who wants to revise this information, we've recorded it. We'll be putting it up on the Australasian Light Association website and also sharing it, of course, with Nathan so he can share it with his group as well. So thank you so much, Nathan. We're all very appreciative. We've got lots of comments coming in. Thank you for your answer. Thank you very much. Thank you. So everyone, great class. So much appreciation to you.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate this opportunity. I was sharing with you before people joined. I was really looking forward to actually coming down to Perth and being with you in person, but I'm really still appreciative that we had this opportunity to do the virtual version, and it'll just build more suspense for next time we can get together. So
Absolutely. That's wonderful. We look forward to having you over here in Australia as well, soon, hopefully. All the best, Nathan. And thank you, everyone, all over the globe, wherever you've attended from. We appreciate your attendance. Lovely. So, thank you. Bye for now.